What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another video. Today I have something super fun. So actually this guy, Ryan, he reached out to me over Instagram and told me that he had made a video that was inspired off of my video, the writing a script in 48 hours challenge. And so he saw that video and felt inspired to take on a similar challenge, and it didn't work out for him. And so he tried to write a movie in a week, in 7 days, and he failed. And this is great because he made this video about it. He still put it up, link to his channel below if you want to go check out the video. And there's a lot of great stuff to talk about here. And I think that what he has in this video, there's a lot to be learned and a lot to be taken away from his inability to complete this script. So let's just hop into the video right now.
I tried writing a full feature film in 1 week and I failed, and it's okay. But I still think you should try it, and here's why. So just as January started, I'm all pumped up with some New Year's goals and New Year's ideas, and I'm watching this guy's video, and he's writing movies in just 2 days. Well, this guy's crazy. And so I think to myself, yeah, I can do that. Here's the thing. I've never actually completed a full-length feature script before. I have written countless short films. I've planned feature films. I've attempted feature films. I get about 4 pages in and then I start rethinking my life decisions, and it ends there. So I figure that 48 hours is a bit too extreme for me. I don't think I could finish one that fast. I've got a wife, I've got a kid, and I don't think they would appreciate me abandoning them for 2 days straight.
Pro tip, not having a wife or a kid helps you write a script in 2 days.
7 days, that's way better, yeah. So the plan was the first 2 days I would outline, and then the last 5 days I would just vomit up 90 pages and have a completed script by the end of it. And I was hoping to get a lot of time dedicated to this every day.
Okay, so his plan to start off is 2 days of outlining and then the 5 days of actually writing the script, which should work. So far he's on the right track. This is something that seems doable. Obviously, it is a challenge. Obviously, it takes a lot of focused energy, but this is something that definitely seems doable.
So day 1 of the 7-day script challenge rolls in, and it's already going poorly. I am distracted. I am procrastinating. I'm keeping myself busy with work that I have to do but isn't as important as the challenge that I set for myself, and it's just not going well. I watched this guy's video a couple more times because, I'm just looking for the perfect spark of inspiration.
Okay, so this is something that I really want to touch on. On his first day, he is struggling to write, and he is looking for this spark of inspiration, and he's being distracted. He's procrastinating. He feels stuck. Writer's block is coming at him. He's having all of the usual problems that writers have, and these are all problems that I have too. So like when I wrote that script in 2 days, it wasn't like I wasn't struggling with any of this or that any of this didn't come at me. It does come at you, but the difference is you actually can beat this, and you can beat this fairly easily, right? So what he is actually experiencing here, whether or not, I don't know if he says it here or not, but what he's actually experiencing here is the fear of the script being bad. That's it. He's not actually worried about the work itself, because the work itself isn't actually that difficult. It's not actually as difficult to work on an outline for a little bit, for a few days, and this and that. What he is actually afraid of is that he has this idea in his head. He wants this story to be good, and he is worried that it's going to be bad. And I have that, everyone has that, but it's getting over that fear of writing poorly that actually helps you get your scripts onto the page. And this is something I cover at length and in depth in the practical screenwriting course, because it's all about focusing on building a writing process that actually helps you get your stories out onto the page.
Inspiration until finally, it's probably like 4 p.m. or something. I get rid of all my distractions. I put my phone away. I turn the internet off, and I get to outlining. And I get about an hour's worth of work done, and I write a concept and a log line. That's all I got day one. That's all I did. Day one was obviously a bust, but this is why I gave myself 7 days instead of 2 days. I still got some wiggle room. I still got time to pick up the slack.
It is less about finding that perfect concept immediately, finding that perfect log line, and just writing stuff out. I think in my video, in the video where I wrote the script in 48 hours, you see that I just wrote down ideas and a lot of stuff I didn't use, and that's just part of the brainstorming process. Part of the writing process is moving through bad ideas so that you can find the ones you like. It's really not about writing perfectly as much as it is about writing less bad over time and finding good ideas only by moving through bad ideas.
So day 2 rolls around and I'm feeling good. I'm ready to get started for real. I instantly start outlining. I put my phone on the other side of the room. I put my headphones on. I'm listening to creepy music and I'm getting inspired and I start outlining. So only 1 hour into day 2 and I already have a super rough outline constructed. And I say to myself, that's good enough. You know, I've got deadlines to keep up with. I can't be wasting my time outlining anymore. So I just hop straight into writing. 2 pages in and I'm already into unknown territory. I'm writing setups that have no payoffs. I'm writing details that I have no plans for, but I did not care. I just wanted to get it out onto the page.
Great. So obviously in this point, he's in a bit of a better mindset. Day 2, he worked on this rough outline and now he's writing and he knows that it's not going to be perfect, but he's just going to move through it and he's going to get that first draft done, which is how writing works, especially that this is his first feature-length script ever. And so he should not be in the mindset here, and neither should you if you are writing your first screenplay. You should not be in the mindset of, oh, this is going to be this absolute masterpiece. This first draft is going to be perfect. The first draft is all about just finishing. Because if you can't finish, you can't write anything good. You know, a perfect 10 pages, a perfect 50 pages out of 90 still isn't finished. And it's not, so it's better to have something that is finished and not perfect than something that is half done and perfect.
I ended the day with 9 pages, and I felt pretty good about that until I started doing the math. I felt good about 9 pages, but I still wanted about a 90-page script. And to do that in 6 days, that would mean about 15 pages a day. So I was pretty far off the mark already, day 2. It's all good, though. I figured I'd make it up the next day, but I did not end up making it up the next day.
So 15 pages a day is definitely doable. And I think it's definitely doable even, you know, if you are fairly new to writing. It's all about pushing past these mental blocks of fearing that your story is not going to be good, and fearing that because your story isn't good, that you are somehow less of a person, or that your story and this bad story defines who you are. You know, that's another big thing, is that writers attach their identities to every single thing they write. And you can't write a lot when you do that, because then when you write, you have to spend all this time moping around and hating yourself for writing something that wasn't perfect, and it's just not productive. And so you have to be able to separate yourself from the writing that you're doing, separate your identity from it, and then just focus on finishing and focus on improving as a storyteller.
The next day, I think I got about 8 pages. The day after that, maybe 3 pages. And then the next day, I didn't get any pages. And then the day after that, 7 pages. And I just eventually gave up. By the end of the week, I had barely hit 29 pages. Pretty discouraging, pretty lame. Didn't love it at the time. I wasn't too happy about it.
Okay, so this is really what I wanted to talk about. 29 pages. He was 29 pages in to his story when he gave up. If you go back and watch my video, you will find that when I hit that major block, I was around page 33, 34, something around those first 30 pages. And this is something that's happened to me over and over, and this is something that I've seen other writers struggle with over and over and over again. Something about hitting that 30-page area that's one of the biggest blockers to actually finishing your story. And The only difference between me finishing the script in my 48 hours video and him not is that it's not that I'm some fantastic, great person who can focus and be super productive. It's not that. It's that I decided at that point that finishing was more important than the script being perfect. And because I made that decision, I sat back down and I kept moving. And that was the biggest difference. It wasn't about having this like perfect, script. It wasn't about having like this just beautiful mind that can perfectly focus and have tons of energy for, hours and hours and hours. It was simply a decision I made that I was going to finish the script even if I hated it. Because finishing would allow me to go back and look at the mistakes I made. Finishing would allow me to see what I actually liked about the story. Finishing would allow me to see where the holes were in my outlines. Finishing would allow me to see where the flaws were in my characters, right? Finishing allows you to see everything. And so when you can finish, that is when you can make your story better. And so my biggest advice to Ryan in this was that you were so close. This was probably the biggest hump that you were going to hit. Maybe, but I've also struggled around like page 75 as well, where like you're just starting to like near the end, but it's like that final push type of thing. But again, I think multiple scripts I've written have struggled around the 30-page mark, but then I made the decision to keep moving, and that's what got them done. And obviously there's a bit of a difference because this is his first screenplay ever, and I've written a lot of different screenplays. And so obviously I have more practice at pushing through that mental block. And so, this is something that I think that new writers have to begin to build up and begin to build up that ability to push through that mental block. That's something that I've also talked a lot about with my course members in the Facebook group with them, in the private Facebook group with them, because they hit that wall and then they need somebody to come in there and encourage them and say, hey, this is a rut you're in, keep moving, get to the end, it'll be worth it. And so in the private Facebook group with them, I'm able to talk them through those moments and get them to actually get to the end of their scripts.
But looking back, I am still glad that I tried this challenge, and I'm even glad that I failed. I've talked to the screenwriting friends, I've read screenwriting books, I've listened to screenwriting podcasts, but it feels like nothing can quite prepare you to write a screenplay if you've never done it. I made a lot of mistakes that I could have avoided. I could have outlined better. I should have outlined better. I ran into so many problems in my script, and then I'd go back and re-outline, and I'd find some fixes, but then it would change some things that I already set up in the first act, and then I didn't want to go back and change it because I was already not making the pages I need to make, so why would I go back and start rewriting pages I already have? And I had barely spent like 2 hours.
So this is something I had a problem with too, was in the 48-hour script video, I was starting to rewrite pages that I had already written because I was worried about them, not being exactly what I wanted them to be, because I wasn't trusting my outline, because I had literally made the outline in like 3 or 4 hours, and then I had to turn and spend all this time actually writing the story. And so I think that as for trying to write your first screenplay ever in 7 days, that's definitely a feat. And I probably wouldn't recommend doing that. But the takeaway is that you can write 3, 5, even 10 pages a day, right? This is not impossible, right? You can build your focus, you can build your habits, you can create an environment around you that is free of distractions. Okay, this is something that you can do. Even if you're a new writer, even if you are like him who has, written shorts in the past but hasn't tackled that feature-length screenplay before, this is something that you can do, right? This idea that every person has to struggle through 1 to 2 pages a day is just simply not true. And that is part of the reason I made the Practical Screenwriting course and why I outlined how to actually improve your writing process. And so I'm so happy that he's made this video and allowed me to take a look at his writing process and to help you, improve your process and learn from his mistakes and learn from his attempt to write the script in a week.
And during that whole process, I never really outlined characters. I had these bland characters that had no motivation, that just had life happen to them in the different situations. And the more I wrote these characters, the more I disliked them, then the more I realized that they were boring and nobody would like this movie. And
Okay, so when he's talking about how he thought his characters were boring and no one would like this movie, these are not actual criticisms of his story. They're criticisms of his view of himself, right? So he's looking at the story and he's looking at himself and he's thinking, I'm a terrible writer. Why would anybody listen to me? Nobody's gonna care what I'm saying, right? So he's getting into this mindset, and this mindset is getting him off track and getting him off of the reason as to why you write a first draft, right? Again, the reason is finishing. The reason is getting the story onto the page so that you can actually have something to fix, so that you can find what's working, find what's not working, and actually go through the rewriting process.
But the good thing about this whole process and about failing is that now I have a plan. I have a plan that is built out of the rubble of my failure. That sounds cheesy. So now the good thing is that I have a plan going forward for my next script. And this isn't a plan that I got from someone else. This isn't a plan that I read from somebody or heard somewhere. This is a plan based off of what I know I need and how I work. Another reason why the 7-day script challenge was good for me is because I didn't spend months of my life pouring into this script. I didn't spend too much time. So when now it's a big old failure, I don't feel terrible about it. I lost a week, and in that week I learned a ton, and it doesn't turn into this heartbreaking situation where this script that I've been milling over for months or years, I now realize is a failure, and it's not that big of a time waste.
Yeah, so it is a good start. I think that he attempted a script, he attempted to write this feature, and that's fantastic, and that's what he should have done. And I think now moving forward, I think you regroup, you learn from those mistakes, and you tackle it again. Now, if I was going to give him advice as someone who has written short scripts before but has not written a feature before, what I would suggest is probably a 30-day period. A period where you can write minimum of 3 pages a day, and then sort of have a target that's higher than that, maybe 5 pages a day, maybe 6 pages a day, because it's likely that you will miss some days here and there as you're trying to write the script. And so setting yourself a month, it isn't this massive amount of time, but it also isn't so short that it doesn't give you any wiggle room. And so I think that even a new writer, even someone who hasn't written very much before at all, I think should be able, absolutely, to tackle a full feature-length script in 1 month. It can be done, you can do it. The only thing holding you back is the mental blockers and beliefs that are sitting in your brain.
I want to seek out these things. I want to move towards discomfort and the possibility of failure, because without those things, there's no progress and there's no success. So with all of that said, I'm just going to tell you guys my 2020 writing goal. And right now, my 2020 writing goal is to write 6 feature films. I kind of wish I hadn't told you guys.
Okay, this is the last thing I want to talk about for this video. Do not try to write 6 feature films in a year. Do not. Here's the problem with that goal. 1, you haven't written a feature at all. So, how are you going to try to write 6 of them if you haven't been able to tackle 1 yet? 2, the problem with this lofty goal is that it feels nice right now. It feels great, and it's like, I'm gonna crush it, this and that. But it is so big that you feel like you can't even get started. Like when you finish a full screenplay, you're only 1/6 of the way there. It's way too big. I would say 2 absolutely maximum. And rather than writing 6 scripts that are only kind of good, you focus on 2 scripts, you focus on finishing those scripts, you focus on learning a lot, and you focus on rewriting those scripts to actually make them better. Because the rewriting process is just as important. Once you get that first draft out, you need to understand, how do I go through this? How do I find and fix my story's problems? And you're not going to be able to do that if you're trying to write 6 feature films. You're going to be blazing through writing, and you're never going to be able to look back and take a magnifying glass over your story and figure out what was working and what wasn't. So Ryan, I'm so happy you made this video. I'm so happy that you reached out to me over Instagram. I could take a look at it and I could sort of talk through some of the things that happened with your experience. And I would definitely recommend write 2 scripts this year. Contact me again in December. Let me know how you did. And to everyone else, you can get your story out onto the page. It doesn't have to take 6 months. It doesn't have to take a year. And you also don't have to write it in a week. But you can write 3 pages a day. You can write 5 pages a day. All you need are the tools to be able to sit down, focus, build that consistency, build a habit, and have the accountability around you, and have people around you who can keep you accountable, who can come beside you when you are struggling, who can give you the motivation to keep pushing, and who can take a look at your stories once you finish them. And that's all I've got for you today. I'll see you guys in the next one.